Hello, my name is Jennifer Agmon, and I'm going to be discussing the e-waste site Agbogbloshie in Accra, Ghana. The objectives of this presentation are to give an overview of Agbogbloshie and the work being done there, explain how the methods of processing e-waste affect the health of the workers, and explore how e-waste impacts the community bordering Agbogbloshie. Agbogbloshie is an electronic waste processing site located in Accra, Ghana. This site was initially used as a location for the sale of produce, but it is now one of the largest e-waste sites in the world. Cars, batteries, computers, cell phones, refrigerators, and other e-waste come to Agbogbloshie to get sorted, processed, and sold by thousands of workers who are exposed to occupational hazards on a daily basis. Here's the table of contents for this presentation. I will be using 5 figures to describe Agbogbloshie and the significance of electronic waste processing. I will begin by providing more insight into how workers may protect themselves while working with harmful materials. I then will give more information about the particulate matter that is being inhaled by the workers in various positions and the physical impacts of working at Agbogbloshie. Next, I will show you a map of the area to enhance your understanding of the possible larger impacts of the e-waste site. And finally, I will end the presentation by expanding on these larger effects with data about heavy metal concentrations in the soil. This is a pie chart showing the percentage of e-waste workers who use PPE. This study, conducted in May of 2019, revealed that out of 84 workers who were interviewed, 57.1% stated they wore boots, and 9.5% of workers stated they wore glasses, masks, and helmets. This leaves a concerning 33.4% of workers who do not use PPE. While it is favorable that some workers are wearing PPE, the exposures to dangerous materials and particles can have negative effects on those who are not. Additionally, this is a small sample size, and if you take a look at the picture to the left of the chart, which was taken just a month prior to the study, the workers are wearing open-toed sandals without PPE while working alongside sharp, dirty, and dangerous materials. Here is a table that shows the inhalation of particulate matter amongst workers in varying job positions at the site. As mentioned in the previous slide, many of the workers are not wearing PPE, which makes the inhalation of particles more likely. Occupational deaths are not uncommon worldwide, and around 40% of them have been associated with particulate matter and harmful fumes at the workplace. Particulate matter that is less than 2.5 micrometers can easily reach lungs at the point of gas exchange, and particulate matter greater than 2.5 micrometers can burrow itself into the lungs and remain there. Small particulate matter is associated with cardiovascular, respiratory, and cerebrovascular complications and cancers, which can all lead to increased morbidity or death. With regard to e-waste specifically, the heavy metals and pollutants can negatively affect the nervous system, reproductive system, and endocrine system. If you look at the numbers on this chart, workers are inhaling a significant amount of particulate matter, and this can have disastrous effects on their health over time. Those working at the burning sites especially have large quantities of particulate matter inhalation. This is followed by those who dismantle and sort materials, and then finally those who transport materials. Continuing on with the topic of injury, e-waste workers at Agbogbloshie have the potential of being physically harmed during the workday. Many of the workers do not use gloves or other protective materials while using sharp tools and stripping metals, so cuts, lacerations, and abrasions are fairly common. As you can see in the graph to the left, the number of injuries rose significantly as the number of hours spent at work increased. The number of cuts remained the most prominent as the number of hours increased, and it reached almost 60 when the workday was extended by only 5 hours. If you take a look at the graph to the right, you can see the number of injuries that occurred in the sample population over the course of multiple years. At 6 to 12 months, there were a few injuries among the workers, with cuts remaining the most common injury. At 5 or more years, the number of cuts, lacerations, and abrasions increased significantly. Those collecting and dismantling items had a higher incidence of cuts than those responsible for sorting and burning materials, but these workers were not without injury. Other notable injuries among workers at Agbogbloshie include skin rashes and burns, eye irritation and itchiness, especially among those burning materials, and back pain. This is a map of the e-waste site and the surrounding community. I have circled the areas frequently visited by those living nearby. These include churches and other religious organizations, the onion market, which sells onions and other produce, the goat farm, which supplies most of the goat meat in the city, a residential area, and a soccer field. The black circles on the map are the largest burning locations at the e-waste site, and you can see that these burning sites are very close to frequently visited areas. One is almost directly next to a soccer field where children play and multiple religious institutions. The animals and produce being purchased and ingested are on the same land that is filled with harmful materials, and people live next to the e-waste site. Given that the workers are negatively impacted by inhaling particulate matter associated with burning metals and other materials, it is hard to imagine that the children and families who visit these places are not impacted as well. To expand on this concept of the dangers of being nearby the e-waste site, I have created a bar graph showing the levels of various heavy metals in the soil at the site and in the surrounding areas. There are high concentrations of lead, nickel, copper, chromium, zinc, and barium in the soil in almost all of the different locations listed. Cadmium, cobalt, and mercury are present at nearly every site as well, but in smaller quantities. Considering that there is a lack of PPE usage among workers and no PPE usage among those living in and visiting the surrounding area, these materials may be entering their bloodstreams and causing negative health effects. Thinking about children who live or play nearby, soil can easily be ingested without proper safety methods and hand hygiene. The blue line serves to show tolerable lead levels in soil in areas where children play. Levels in both the residential and recreational sites are above the line and indicate how serious the soil contamination is, and this can apply to the other heavy metals as well. To summarize this presentation, Agbogbloshie is one of the largest and most well-known electronic waste sites in the world. E-waste is sorted, dismantled, burned, transported, and sold at the site. The processing of e-waste can have immense effects on the health and safety of the workers who are spending hours each day with exposures to heavy metals and other dangerous particulates, but they can also affect those spending time in the surrounding area. And lastly, health and environmental impacts must both be considered when thinking about e-waste processing and Agbogbloshie. These are my references that I used to create this presentation. Thank you very much for listening.